Alright, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Beginner's Guide to Success in the Elder Scrolls Online. Now, in this episode, we're going to be going over which two-handed weapon is right for you. Now, there's a lot of different things you have to consider before picking which weapon you want, like considering like what class you are and what you want to do and what you are currently doing. So, first of all, we are currently in the Imperial City sewers. We're doing testing on the PTS server right now. So, everything and all the information I'm going to give you is going forward towards the Imperial City patch. So, the recent patch notes they just released will be carrying over towards everything else. So, all this information I'm giving you is going to be updated for the Imperial City when it releases. So first of all, we have 3 different types of two-handed weapons: swords, axes, and maces. And by maces I mean like maces and hammers. Those are considered maces. So yeah, let's go over what each two-handed weapon does. So the two-handed swords give or deal 5% extra damage, while the two-handed axes deal a certain X amount of damage in physical damage and cause bleeding over time. And the maces ignore 20% of your target's armor. So let's go over this for a second and show you like what it also does and why things are kind of important. So let's say you're wanting to build for PvP or PvE. For PvP, I would say swords are generally good, and if you're going for bosses, you might want to switch it up to a mace, or keep your swords. Those are generally good ideas. And for PvP, axes I believe are the best at the moment because it deals a lot of damage, plus it does bleeding damage over time. So generally, if you can stun your enemy in PvP and continuously do damage, that is good. I'm still doing a little bit of testing with maces, seeing how much damage it actually does. When it says ignore 20% of your target's armor, it doesn't tell you how much. That has a lot of variables. Like, it depends on your weapon, how much damage your weapon does. But axes and swords, you can actually just determine how much damage you're doing, especially if you have some add-ons. If you watched part 1 of the Beginner's Guide, we go over add-ons to see how you're doing in combat. But overall, consider which weapon you're using, and overall I would say for both PvP and PvE, a sword is a great choice, especially if you don't play with add-ons or you're just on console and have no idea what you're doing. So 5% extra damage is always good. And for PvP, I would say two-handed axes. It just gives you a set amount and bleeding over time. So just like in PvP, your goal is to do the most DPS possible. That's why you're using a two-hander. So yeah, just consider what you're doing, and overall, how do you think it is going to affect the gameplay? Because most of the time, if you were to use an axe in PvE dungeons, usually the bosses are immune to bleed damage, so that just kind of cancels it out. So you'd rather have a sword. And for the most part, maces in PvE are generally not that good. You can ignore 20% of your target's armor, yeah, but there's a lot of AoE, and the bosses just have so much health and armor. 20% is not really going to make a difference. So just once again, if you did miss it, two-handed swords are generally good all around. And for PvP, axes, just because bleed damage and whatnot, and there's nothing you can really do about it except keep healing yourself and adding more resistances. So overall, I hope you enjoyed this short video. If you did, feel free to click the link or the annotation at the bottom left. It will link you to a playlist of more guides. Hopefully anything in general you might find out that might be helpful to you. But as a little addition, I'm just going to go over the two-handed abilities. These are currently into PTS, so that means it'll be carrying over to the new patch. So what you see here is most likely going to be what's going to be in the live server. So, Carve. What this is your single target attack. It's going to be your primary one. You're going to be like going in. If there's an AoE, you just keep swinging. You might hit AoE abilities, but primarily you're going to be wanting to use this as your main. Critical Rush is a very important one. A lot of people use it in both PvP and PvE. It is when you, from a distance, you charge in, and then you do damage based on how far you are away from your enemy, and then you could keep carving them. So you pretty much want to use Critical Rush and then carve in. Or you could use Wrecking Blow. Wrecking Blow is a slow wind-up attack, but it does massive damage and not really used in PvP that much, but PvP or PvE it does a lot of damage. Now, Reversing Slice isn't really used much at all by anyone, but just in case you want to know what it does, it's kind of like a whirlwind. Spin around and strike your enemy, dealing X amount of damage, and then 300% more against enemies with 50% less health. Once again, not really used. And finally, Rally is your momentum thingy. It increases your physical damage or weapon damage by 20%, and then I morphed it so it heals you when the effect ends for 2 seconds, so you just get like a bonus heal. It's good in both PvP and PvE, just because healing yourself while passively while your potions are in cooldown are generally good. Plus, it gives you a weapon damage bonus. So overall, Carve is good, Critical Rush is good, Wrecking Blow is PvE situational, no one uses, and Reversing or Reverse Slice no one really uses, and Rally is also very important to have. Also, if you're going to be using two-handed, you might want to have all the passives, but just keep in mind of the heavy weapons one. Make sure to read it and see which two-handed is right for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.